Today's episode is sponsored by Vitality Health RX Supplements. Whether you're an athlete, a busy professional, or just someone looking to prioritize health, Vitality Health RX has what you need. With premium ingredients and rigorous quality control, their supplements support your body's natural functions. Visit shopvrx.com and use code FEELGREAT15 for 15% off your first order. Thanks to Vitality Health RX for sponsoring this episode. Now let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Feel Better, Feel Great podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea McSwain. Today's episode, number 145, is Getting Stronger and Faster, How to Support Your Muscles Without Overtraining. If you're new here, this podcast is all about using evidence-based strategies to help you unlock your energy, strength, and confidence so you can support your health span, feel better, and live at your best. As a doctor, I've worked with patients, and some of them are weekend warriors, who feel like they're doing everything right to get stronger, only to end up feeling worse, burned out, stuck, or even injured. That's why today I want to share what I've learned from both clinical practice and some excellent research on how to build strength, recover faster, and avoid the trap of overtraining. You should think about that as inflammation, just mounting inflammation without repair. So if you've ever felt like your workouts are leaving you exhausted instead of energized, or you're not seeing the results you deserve, this episode is for you. And to help you get started on the right track, I've created a free resource, my Metabolic Quick Start Guide. It's filled with simple tips to fuel your body and boost your results. Please go to the link in the show notes. And remember that the information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or your health objectives. Okay, so in working with patients, I've seen firsthand how critical strength is. It's not just for athletes, but it's for everyone. In fact, I don't actually hold professional athletes at the highest mark of physical fitness because they often need to play through injury or take on unusual stances for their sports performance. So I think that's first and foremost is what kind of ideal are you putting yourself up against? And if you're thinking about professional athletes, I can tell you that you really don't necessarily want the body of some professional athletes. And I don't really hold them in a high mark for the everyday person. Mostly too because a lot of athletes have to get paid. That is their job. And they will do whatever it takes, including ignoring their body's signals, in order to perform and be the professionals that they are. I greatly respect professional athletes. I just know that in working with patients, that they first need to understand, what is their ideal of what they want out of life. And then sometimes I actually get people to look a little bit down the line about also what they don't want in life, okay? Because sometimes the removing the negative symptoms is also very important. First, though, I want to go back to the athletes. I think about Michael Phelps, Olympic swimmer, and his legs and ankles and feet are developed more to have a flipper fin. And if you look at them, they're very much an extension of the lower leg. The ankle's kind of like stuck in a position that elongates the foot from the lower leg. I think this produces a tremendous amount of discomfort in his legs as his ankle joint is extremely modified towards performance. And I've seen that as I evaluate a lot of other athletes as well in their body contours, particularly like ballet dancers. That's really important. Or gymnasts. They will hold themselves in a way that will actually kind of cause physical ailments and problems. So again, reassess who you're thinking about. I like to think about that person who just keeps getting stronger in their life. They're setting goals about their body and their mind, and they're not really looking at an athlete per se. They're looking at their own performance and what can they do to challenge themselves. So that's what I might suggest what you do. Also, when I think about athletes, I think a lot about a lot of retired college athletes that I've seen in my practice and kind of what can happen 10, 20, 30, 40 years later in their body. And so sometimes that has to be considered. However, it's really important to get out there and get exercising when you're young and keep it up and keep getting stronger. So remember too, strength is not about aesthetics. It's about the foundation of your health. So you want to stay functional is an important goal, boost longevity, and support the inherent pump, which is a lot about your metabolism and making sure everything in your body works great. So when you're staying functional, right, strong muscles help you move better, avoid injuries, and stay independent as you age. And that's a big deal for me. Imagine being able to carry groceries or play with your grandkids or great-grandkids without pain or fatigue. Also, imagine being able to stand on your own two legs for your whole life and not use a cane or a walker or a wheelchair to the best of your ability. Now, boosting longevity, that's really important because maintaining muscle mass lowers the risk for falls, fractures, hospitalizations. So think about that idea. And then, of course, muscles being supportive of your metabolism, because muscles, first of all, they're very metabolically active. So they help you burn energy. They help you also pump fluid and support the body's repair systems as well. So they're very important to your overall well-being. And I want to talk about some common mistakes that I see in my practice because I've worked with countless patients, including some professional athletes, who unintentionally sabotage their progress by falling into one of these common traps. So first of all, they start at the wrong level. And this is really important. Because when you start at the right level, it makes you feel good, okay? So for CrossFitters out there, you might want to think about this. For people who have just gotten back into the gym, for people who go into yoga classes, you might be comparing yourself against the teacher or other people around you without any understanding of where they are, and even the decisions that they're making in their body might actually be very harmful. And so if you're starting, how can you start at the right level? Well, first of all, it's learning to pay attention to your body. And I definitely see when people get back into it and they think about, okay, well, I used to be able to do this. Well, if you're saying that you used to be able to do it, it probably means right now you might want to reassess if you can actually do it. And that's really important. So making a small goal and making those things tangible so you can check in with yourself. That's how you start at the right level. But definitely it's a mistake to start at the wrong level because then you're going to lead right into overtraining, a ton of inflammation, and a lot of tissue injury that might be micro or it might actually become macro. And it can be exhausting. In fact, it can even cause some hormonal imbalances. We'll talk about that. Another common mistake is skipping recovery. So if you stress, and this applies to life in general, but if you're skipping the recovery, your muscles don't have a chance to rest and grow again and lengthen those fibers and start to build themselves. That's one of the very cool things about muscles is they actually build themselves. So it's important to recognize what you need for recovery. And also recovery is just not doing nothing. I think that's also a very common mistake is people say, well, I'm recovering by not doing something. But actually recovering still means kind of softening the edges. So if you do a lot of strength training, which is super important, kind of the emphasis for today, but then you're not stretching, right, for the days that follow, or you're not doing small little strength efforts, then you're not really recovering, you're just not really doing anything. So that's important. And then, of course, underfueling your body. This is particularly important if you're struggling with some pre-diabetes. So if you're struggling with some pre-diabetes, underfueling your body can be a big deal because of insulin resistance. The muscles are already not getting enough blood glucose to really work well. And as a result, then the muscles will fatigue a lot faster. They'll tighten, and that can lead to some profound injury. So making sure that you're eating enough in your pre-workout, which is usually like a small apple or some really good like cold pressed juice maybe, and then recovering right away starts with fueling your body with a protein shake or protein source, some great hydration to get that metabolic waste away from your muscles, because your muscles did all this work and sometimes they use up a lot of water. So they need that fuel, which is water as well, to help in the post-workout. Let's reevaluate your approach if you feel like you're getting stuck. And you can get stuck, trust me. There is definitely ways to get stuck. I'm going to give you several ways to build strength without overtraining. First of all, know your starting point and track your progress. So use an effort scale, 1 to 10, and reassess this effort when you're going through it. Now, the thing about strength training is there's also some element of stretching. So a long muscle is a strong muscle. A short muscle is a weak muscle. And if you're not using your muscles, and you're using your knees or your hamstrings, then you are getting into a problem because your effort scale is actually completely off. So, but how much effort are you putting into it is very important. And where are you with it? So if you're aiming for a 6 to 7 during your if you're aiming for 6 to 7 during your workouts, this can be challenging but not overwhelming. But make sure you're also checking in to track your progress post-workout so you know that that is actually an appropriate level of where you were. Because you might be thinking you're doing great. The music might be loud. There might be a lot of people. It might be really fun. You might be just really enjoying the stretch and the movement and the strength. And then you get done with it and it's like, whoa, that was crazy. You have to take days to recover. I recently took a hot yoga class, and I do love hot yoga because it gets things moving. I sweat a lot. I am very careful that I'm not moving in my ligaments and my joints, but I'm working in my muscles. And I had a great workout. It felt so good. There's music at the yoga studio that I go to. So the music was great. I was really enjoying it. I was really connected to my abs, glutes, and quads. And I did a great job with my lateral quad. I was really happy, actually. But the issue was the lateral quad, and there's 4 parts of the quad. The lateral quad often gets connected with the IT band. And I was really able to discern that. So I was really proud of myself. I'm doing this, staying super engaged, keeping my hips open, and then just noticing, like, the next day I was fine. I was doing some light stretching, and I was walking, of course, Nico. But then, got to, a few days, and it was also, there was a lot of other things going on at home and work. So I was ready to go to back to yoga class 2 days later, and I was like, that's not going to happen. And I just knew the recovery wasn't right. So I did commit to, stretching and heating and using the sauna and, some other things that I have access to. And then wasn't better. And so then I added some body sculptor from KPS Essentials. I did some more hip balancing, and that was the ticket. So I went back to the core and reevaluated the core, softened that lateral quad, and now I'm more than ready to go back to yoga. I feel like I've had a beautiful recovery. I got to check in with some areas, right? And also, I didn't give up. It's really important to not give up. That's one of the major impediments, right? Is to just stop doing it and say, oh, well, this hurts, or there was a problem or something like that. But the body is inherently designed to heal. And thinking about that's really important. So add hydration, add heat, think about the pelvis, think about the core, and then get right back into it, but maybe not so intense as part of the post-workout recovery time, and then start getting into it again. Also, I usually have been practicing yoga hot yoga about once a week, and then just amping it up to twice a week. And then practicing yoga and walking, but much less intense than a hot yoga class on an everyday basis. The other way to build strength without overtraining is lift the parts of your life. Okay, so when you are living, you're using a lot of postural muscles. And so if you're slumped in your chair or you're holding your head up with your hand like this, okay, don't ever do that. That means you're really tired and you just need to go lay down and rest. So let's say you're doing it with both hands, whatever. You get the point where it's like, okay, you have to actually lift the parts of your life. And one of the things you have to lift is your body. So are your glutes engaged? Are your quads engaged? Even when you're sitting, are you practicing mindful lifting, even when something's small? Like, am I lifting this with my muscles, or am I just kind of grabbing it and pulling it and yanking it and using it from momentum? So you want to avoid momentum where you're just kind of grabbing, you're not connected to the core with momentum, and you're really just pulling, and that's not really lifting with intention. So lifting straight is important, engaging your core, use your legs, expand your mid to upper back to extend your arms. These are the things that are simple habits that protect your joints, prevent injuries, and ensure you're building a functional strength that supports your life. Now, I recently saw one of my wonderful patients. She's in her early 80s. We read her bone density scan with her DEXA scan, and her radial reading was actually worse than a year prior. Now, she's on some wonderful supplements. Her hip score was trending down, so that's good. That was much better for her T-score, but she had a worse bone score for her arms. And, I'm really objective with this stuff. I firmly believe that the nutraceuticals and supplements that we use work to heal the body because they're what the body needs to heal, quite simply. However, I didn't exactly understand why her radial or forearm bone was looking more osteoporotic than a year prior, because she's also using these supplements. But I really work to be very objective. My job is to be very objective. And we started talking, and we started doing some adjustments. And then we started talking about how her walker fell from underneath her, and she fell down. So she was able to actually fall and get up, have no problem, no bruising, no injury whatsoever. But we realized in that moment that her walker and how she holds it was most likely causing some bone compression. Now, this is a taller person. The walker doesn't get high enough, in my opinion. I really think she's getting stronger, and she's getting stronger. But the issue was there's still a lot of dumping into the walker, causing bone compression, causing the muscles to not engage. And that was profound for her and for me, and her family who was there, because she's not lifting the parts of her life, i.e. her back, holding up her arms. And so this walker is become very problematic, and we're seeing it affect negatively her bone density. So I thought that was really apropos for lifting the parts of your life. Second, you want to improve, another important point about ways to build strength without overtraining is to prioritize quality over quantity. I see that quite a bit when people will do like squats all the way down to the ground, like their glutes are like almost touching the ground, and their knees are in some kind of different direction. Their neck is even strained, their back is cramped. Just the whole thing is very confusing for me. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't we just start with that inch, right? Let's do a squat that's just an inch. The knees are directly over the ankles, and start to get those glutes to kind of pulse and open a little bit. Not a huge pulse, because that's not beneficial, but just a little bit of activation, kind of that microfiber elevation. Start to organize the maximus, medius, and minimus gluteus, so those fibers coordinate with each other and integrate with the quads. And that doesn't happen if you just go straight into like a really deep squat and then everything is just compressed. That's not good. So the quality there is to actually get into the muscle fibers, feel what they're doing, right? Let them expand and contract. And this lends to something that I often say, which is I look at the expansion contraction ratio And I can talk about that a little bit more detailed in a later time, but basically you have to have expansion in order to have contraction. And if your muscles are stuck in a contracted state, that means that they're short and they're very prone to injury. But if you have a long muscle, you have a strong muscle. And that's what expansion is. So you want to make sure you really have a lot of expansion or lengthening of that muscle so that it can work, right? Because if it's in a contracted state, it really can't work. But if it's in an expanded state, then it can contract. Again, if it's just in a contracted state, it can't move anymore. And so it starts to get tight and ball on itself, and you really lose the quality of the movement. But you might be able to continue to just keep doing many, many, many reps. And then, of course, active recovery days. And I love talking about this. You might just really move and find joy. So the Cooper Institute talks about how, people who have chronic medical conditions, particularly diabetes in this study, they did very well to incorporate 5 minutes of strength training. So that would be like squats or leg kicks or ab crunches. It's kind of that routine daily. And then getting in for 5 days out of the week, a 20 to 40 minute walk. And I find whatever gives you joy is the right amount of walking so that when you're done, you feel good. Because if you walk and you feel drained, it's not good. You're not recovering. And then at least once a week, work on a high intensity duration. Some people, because of joint problems or because of getting back into this, right, or needing to be on the lower scale, but of effort, but they need to get their heart beating. If you go for a minute, kind of as fast as you can, whether you're riding your bike or you're walking really fast or running even, whatever it is like that, and then stop completely for a minute. Save your joints, give your heart a race, and let it have time to recover. So your heart will just soar, it'll just go whew, and then you'll have a recovery time for your heart. You'll rest there for a minute, and then you'll go again. And if you can do 10 reps of that, and then a 5-minute cool down, you're going to get a good amount of surge for your heart and recovery, even in the exercise routine. And this will help you get strength, cardiac muscle strength, along with skeletal muscle strength. So you're not overtraining, right? And this is a great pearl. I think it really helps people get that heart rate up without injuring their bodies, and then make their heart stronger, make it pump better, get better oxygenation to those muscles in the future, and start building from there. Because we know that so many chronic diseases are reversible. So we're going to treat those chronic conditions by understanding how to get stronger without leading to problems. Of course, you want to fuel your body. I mentioned a few things about, simple carbs that are healthy carbs before you exercise to fuel those muscles. And then the recovery is very helpful with protein-rich foods. And I just like that protein shake right after workout because it's liquid, so it's really absorbable, it's a high protein, it's simple on the gut, and that can really help. And how much protein you should have really varies. There is a lot of literature. Men can have a lot more protein than women. But again, plant-based protein is very helpful. Animal protein can sometimes cause problems, particularly whey. Can be quite difficult on the digestion, especially in high volume. And I did have a patient who was gearing himself towards 150 to 200 grams of protein. It was whey almost exclusively, and he really found that he was in the bathroom most of the day. So if you're finding that your food is causing you other problems, or you're finding that your strength training and your program around your strength training is causing you other symptoms, then you might want to look at this as well and kind of reevaluate some of these details and try something new. So I hope today's episode resonated with you. It's because strength training isn't about doing more. It's about doing what's right for your body. And it's particularly daunting when you're doing what you should be doing, right? When you're doing the right thing and you're getting the wrong results. And so we just want to make sure you don't give up and get frustrated or even resentful towards your body because of the messages of pain and injury. You're working out and you're hurting. So why would you work out, right? Well, that's not exactly correlated. We need to figure out you're working out and it's hurting your body. So what do we need to do to help you before you work out, during the workout, and after the workout so you get stronger and you enjoy your body better? And there's a lot of those tips in that metabolic quick start guide that I mentioned. It's free. You can grab it in the show notes. There's a lot of actionable tips. And also, I really formed a lot of these tips from my patient experiences in my clinic. So for over a decade, I've been working in the clinic and paying attention to my patients' needs and concerns and their failures and successes. And so I want to share those with you in these guides. Next week, we'll be working on how to improve your gut health with energy and performance. And, I just want the best for you. So thank you for joining me on this episode. Feel better, feel great. At its core, this podcast is about helping you build the tools to feel your best and live with strength and confidence. And today's topic is a perfect example. When you focus on sustainable strength training, recovery, proper nutrition, listening to your body, you set the foundation to not just feel better, but to truly feel great. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a few seconds to share it with a friend or a colleague or someone you know at a yoga studio, or maybe 2 minutes to leave a quick review. And that's one of the best ways to support the show and help others find it. Until next time, remember, small, consistent actions lead to big results. Keep moving, stay strong, and let's keep working towards feeling better and living greater. See you next week.